Howdy and hello. There's 5 primaries, 5 secondaries, and 4 utilities in Far Far West. We'll be ranking them from best to worst, going over how they perform against hordes, bosses, and the unique quirks they may have, including their jokers. We'll begin with the minigun. A hand-cranked lead unleasher, dealing immersional damage due to the ability for players to move whilst shooting it, which is downright wizardry. We've got warlocks working an evil raptor. The damage output is good, but the sheer volume of shots being sent down range is what makes the weapon so freaking awesome, because it meshes absurdly well with a few jokers, which, by the way, the main focus is on the weapons and how they synergize with certain jokers, mainly unique ones, but also sometimes legendaries, mythics, and rares. In Minigun's case, you get the most bang for your buck out of Ricochet, for instance, because it's a flat 30% chance for all weapons. In this case, the more shots you shoot, the better value you get, the more chance you have of activating this. And because you're facing the majority of enemies of which aren't that healthy, you can get a few damage jokers through various sources. All of a sudden, you're one-shotting those fellers, and you're just putting so much ammunition downrange. So this alone is already off to a good start. But then you factor in the unique jokers. And the first one to unlock is Elemental Spin. The minigun has a 30% chance to fire a random elemental bullet instead of a regular one. Normally, it's a 5% chance to fire shock, fire, or acid, and you have to choose one of those. This gives you the whole shebang. So rocking this with Ricochet, you shoot basically anything, but especially the larger enemies, and whatever you're hitting turns into a lightning rod, of which it's applying Ricochet with elemental shots to everything around it. And if you couple your spells in there, like Rain, for instance, it just amplifies the experience. It just makes it that much better. This by itself is freaking phenomenal. Such a good time. Very big fan. Your other unique joker is Frenzy Spin. While your kill counter is above 10, the minigun fires twice as fast. This is not particularly good, considering you can just go machine gun for the exact same cost, and dealing damage gives you faster fire rate that I believe stacks infinitely. Once you have it, there is no requirement to do anything special. Whereas maintaining a 10 kill streak, for instance, on a boss is not a very common occurrence, so you'll be intermittently having the speed, or sometimes having none of it. Minigun is phenomenal for horde clear. It excels there, and it's respectable on bosses too. So you've got this really impactful tool that subjectively is insanely fun to shoot. I believe it is S tier without a doubt. Big fan. Dual revolvers in 2 tin cans fastened by a horse stirrup, I believe. These fire 6 shots each and can be thrown once reloaded, triggering an explosion based on the element you've chosen for them. You have a decent bit of spread, making it more inconsistent to land shots, but you can improve that by putting points in accuracy. And I don't believe the damage is the main draw to it. Instead, it has 3 things going for it. One of them is its ability to gain the most experience in the game at the moment. Everything else I've used so far, you get maybe half the experience of damage dealt, sometimes a third. This gives you more experience than damage dealt, and I believe it's because it's allocating the damage done by the explosion, by the element it has. And that can also apply to maybe even the element you trigger by having certain jokers. That's ridiculously awesome. Big fan. This means you can power level it. I'm getting 30,000 experience with 30,000 damage done roughly, if not less. On a shotgun, I deal 130,000 damage. I get maybe 30k experience. That is freaking awesome. Kind of wish other sidearms had that going for it. Porky Pig, little brief occurrence there. There is no speech therapy to save my words, but there are some sick hats at OutWestTeams.com. My brother's business, he makes them in his garage. We got the Arrowhead one for, I believe, 25 bucks. Shipping's paid by my brother, and no taxes. He also plays those too. And some OhDough merch as well. He does custom embroidered hats if you're interested for businesses, sports teams, you name it. You need, let's say, 7 or more hats done. Hit him up. He can get it all squared away and hook you up with some fine quality. Anyway, back to the video. The other, or one of the other factors, is the lifesteal aspect. Your damage is not ridiculous for either boss killing or horde killing, but it's not shabby neither, with certain unique jokers. But the fact in which you can just have 24% lifesteal, shoot a boss, and get 30 HP back if you have a decent investment in damage jokers. That is awesome. It frees up so much space you'd otherwise have to invest in jokers or spells to give yourself some sustain. You have that with this. And the third major benefit is going to be going into the unique jokers. First off, you have Swamp Trick. Reload explosions now leave puddles on the ground. These allow you to do spell combos. You have a bubble. Well, first you throw a fire little reload on the ground, then you bubble it. Fire tornado. If you have geyser, throw that out, and then you can use the shock version and reload and toss the explosion. This will trigger more geysers that allow you to then toss fire beam and cause a massive tornado. Eco trick. Reloading no longer wastes ammo. Should have said that earlier, I keep forgetting. When you reload, it wastes ammunition. I do not love how this costs 5 points. I get the intention, but still. If you plan on doing spell combinations, you basically have to take Eco Trick and the Swamp Trick. If you're just going for damage output and want to have some decent sustain, some pretty okayish horde clear, and potentially some fun boss damage, then you go Swamp Trick, Ricochet, and I end up taking Reload Mastery for now, but eventually I might just have either 2 Reload Masteries or go Lucky Strike. Those are the options. I believe that dual revolvers are A tier. Dual revolvers got buffed by a little bit. Base damage increased from 9 to 11, so they're just even better by a smidge. Bottle Crate. You're the healing milkman, tossing out these green guava juice mixtures that give players back 80 health once drank. They persist forever and possibly don't have any addictive properties, or so I've been told, and you can do things such as make a portal into a safe spot, possibly on the coastal side of things, or in specific areas, like on, I believe, Far West, a giant bridge. That's a spot where enemies can't get to you very easily, and you have a safe reset with bottles at the end of it that folks can go to get topped off and then return to battle. If you're drinking a bottle, you can also pick up things such as ammunition. So you have a somewhat safe time to do so, because if you're next to a bunch of enemies, they'll be swinging on you when you go for a primary or secondary refill. So bottle has some uses, some cool tech you can do, and I'm kind of a fan. And on the portal note, by the way, if you have 2 folks with portal, it makes the whole process 10 times better. Bottle Crate is B tier, mainly because you rarely ever see folks doing the portal tech, and there's so many ways you can heal that it's not particularly necessary. It just depends on what people bring for their builds. But usually, Shotgun, is a very powerful weapon right now. At its base core, it's just a run-of-the-mill shotty with buckshot, shooting a bunch of pellets, making it fairly simple to hit things and get some damage off, which is cool. It's just basic stuff. But it fundamentally breaks the game because of the damage it deals, making it so bosses aren't even aware of how fast they're dying, their health bar can't keep up, and allows basically one person to just steamroll the entire mission. Hordes, mini-bosses, bosses, they are gods. And the weapon itself is not rocket science to shoot. You aim for the body, center mass, fire away, profit. And because of this one unique joker, it also turns itself into almost a sniper to an extent. Doesn't have max range or infinite range, but it can still handle basically everything it needs to. For the unique joker I'm talking about, that is Overblast. Shoot an extra pellet for every round missing from the magazine or the tube. Overblast got nerfed. Now it shoots an extra pellet for every 4 missing shots instead of every missing shot, which will be noticeable. You'll have less pellets going out, which means the barricader guys with the shields will require more skill to actually kill. And you can still take out many things very fast. You'll just have to be kind of closer and maybe go for more weak spot shots. But even still, it's doing a ton of damage after the nerfs, which is crazy. I'll be discussing how good it was before the nerf, but understand, if it's only 80% as good as it used to be, that's still good. It was genuinely game-breaking how powerful the weapon was. For shells, you can have roughly 26 if you max out your shell capacity, and at a certain point in the training range, you can get to upwards of 600 to 900, if not 1,000 damage on the training dummy. In game, it goes way past that. I think I saw 2,000 for the last 4 or 5 shells when fighting a boss. And if you couple that damage, that insane damage output, with machine gun that increases your fire rate, you can get to those last shells super fast. and also maybe speedster if you want. And now the other unique joker is rush blast. The first bullet in your magazine has 100% accuracy and shoots further away, turning the shotgun into a rifle. And this is not to sound mean or nothing, not to sound rude. That's not particularly enjoyable or very good. And partly because I don't think the idea is, I don't think folks want to sit there and reload and fire the shotgun necessarily. Because you could do that. That's one playstyle you could embark on. But you're better off instead using overblast even when it's fixed and doing kind of the same thing. Because for snipers, you can just buzz out your sidearm real quick, fire at them, and call it a day. So overblast just becomes a more lucrative option to increase way more bullets or way more shells and the damage of them, as opposed to rush blast only affecting one singular shot. Anywho, shotgun is beyond S tier, but we're going to put it in S tier to save our in-house editor some time. Sheriff stars, the culmination of country folk watching way too many ninja films. These cowboy constellations can be thrown and retrieved to replenish your ammunition, which is great. They're very fun to use, they deal pretty good damage. That's where all the good stuff kind of stops, if you ask me, because there are some downsides. The objective downside here is their hitbox is bigger than what it should be. You can see it on deadeyes that are trying to snipe you. You attack them, throw the star, and it looks as though it's trying to hit their weak spot, the giant jetpack, but it's blocked somehow. That happens fairly often, and it feels a little bad. Now, the other subjective ones will be pickup range. There's a lot of points to be invested into that stat, which could technically not even exist in the first place. It's a little rough having to... Its whole gimmick be, you get 17 stars, which is kind of a low ammo count, and there's so many points to put to get a better pickup range, which does not give you all that much extra range, because the starting point is so low to begin with. Coupled with the unique jokers not being that enticing for players. Jump star, +2 jump while holding the sheriff stars. Scavenger star, gain 30% move speed and 100% pickup range. So more mobility, cool. But doubling down on the pickup range, I, as a player, do not look at that and go, whoa, that's freaking awesome. Because the pickup range is just so abysmal out the gate, there's not really much saving it. Because I've used Scavenger Star with the pickup range, and it's nice, but that's so much investment to just be able to sit there and like hit things and go towards them, which risks taking a bunch of damage just so you can gather a few ninja stars, because a couple of them are going to be in Narnia, since you went for a deadeye in the sky or just had a cattywampus angle and missed. That happens. There's one solution at the moment, which is to get camper. That requires luck, I'm pretty sure, and stand still, shoot ninja stars from the ground, gather them. All of a sudden you have the max limit, because you have a chance not to spend ammo, and ninja stars don't disappear necessarily. That's pretty sick. Very RNG heavy. I do have some budget solutions, I guess, in the Joker-esque style. I'll go ahead and say those right now. I would think maybe you can toss out the stars and retrieve them somehow, like headshots, return stars. You could get a perk where if you pick up a star, it gives you 2 stars back. Things of that nature, which, a little side note, it'd be kind of cool if certain Jokers, unique ones that weren't that powerful, cost less. So it's still a unique Joker, it's still a thing to unlock, but it doesn't cost as many in the sense of 5 slots. It could cost maybe 3, or 2, or 4. Anywho, Sheriff Stars are C tier. Healing area. Throw a supportive brew that breaks and creates a small circle for you and your crew to stand in and regenerate roughly 1 to 2 health per second, which isn't a lot. It does persist for a while, but the circle is small. So it's not nothing. It can be beneficial. The main hiccup is it still costs the red satchel that gives you ammo, which is very important as the other utility you can get. And folks would take it and essentially waste those supplies for a circle in which they don't get much value from in the first place, because they're taking so much damage trying to get heals inside the circle, because the rate of heals are so low and the radius is also pretty small. To me, it's F tier for the fact it's a hog of the other utility uses. Me personally, I think it should have an increased radius by a little bit and possibly an extra charge. And if you refill it at the utility thing, it gives you both bottles back, just because of the difference in usefulness of this versus at least half of the other utilities. Healing Aura is F tier. Long Ranger, a belt-fed sniper rifle dealing hefty damage per shot, and it has a good baseline. In fact, for the overall stats you can invest, you want to do more than the generic damage plus clip size or fire rate. In this case, you kind of want to do multiple things: draw speed, reload speed, clip size, fire rate, the whole shebang, depending on your build. A cool factor is you can actually invest into Weak Link, a joker that many folks do not pick up because it makes your damage, if you don't hit a weak spot, 35%. But your weak spot damage is now 35% stronger. So that's free loot because the sniper does so much damage per shot. You can pick up 2 of those and still be dealing roughly 40 or so damage without having other jokers you find in the mission. That is awesome. I love the fact in which it rewards precision, because you can get to the point that you're one-shotting the horse dudes. That might get changed in the future. They might address the HP, but at the moment, you can do some disgusting stuff. One shot in the liches for sure. The rattle cattle, they get deleted. And you have piercing shots. You can kill up to 3 enemies with a single shot if it's lined up correctly. That leads us into your unique jokers, of which I do believe they're pretty useful. Mine shot. Your weak spot hits cause an explosion. It adds roughly 14 or so damage. That number could be off to your base shot, and it creates a small explosion around it, so you have better AoE potential. And you can combine that with other elemental effects to have the explosion happen on acid, for instance. Focus shot. Every kill reduces the cooldown of your spells by 1 second. I haven't gone crazy and experimenting with it, but you do get effectiveness when you have Ricochet active. The kills from that do trigger this. These are creative, these are engaging, and I believe impactful jokers. Sniper's a good weapon, dude. Could be biased. I just really enjoy precision weapons in games, especially when they have a creative spin like this one does. So it goes without saying, Sniper is S tier. If you don't want to hit your shots in a sense, maybe it's not as high. I get that, but I do think it's freaking fun. Bow. Charge your arrows to increase damage and reduce projectile drop. If you charge for less than half a second, you can leave behind a small AoE puddle that is the element of your choosing, dealing damage to enemies. If they die to it, it can trigger Gold Tooth, Ammo Supplier, and give you healing from Life Pact, which isn't new, but the fact of which the puddle is decently big and it's so easy to access, you can fire multiple, that already is pretty good. Then you attribute its unique jokers, the first of which is Overdraw. Charge for 2 seconds to fire 3 arrows in a cone, horizontally. Bend speed reduces charge time, which, by the way, can increase the rate at which it charges by investing points into bend speed, up to 80%, which is already kind of nuts. But having a massive AoE you can send out, and now you make it triple, this is the horde clearing machine, at least for these smaller chaff. But that's what most of the things you're fighting are anyways, the smaller dudes that die to a single proc of fire, or a single instance. Wait, no. How do you phrase that? You set them on fire, they die. That's what I'm trying to say. So that makes Bow disgusting for horde clear. Then you have your other unique joker, Ultra Draw. Charge for 4 seconds to fire a massive explosive arrow. That is going to help you clear out all the spawners. The things that have the green orbs you destroy, and then once you break them all, it pops. It just takes 1 arrow, basically anywhere. So you can be clearing spawners from across the map and not have to deal with the 1,000 bombers trying to absolutely eviscerate your entire team, like they're cosplaying Bomb Voyage from The Incredibles. This weapon, being able to do such disgusting horde clear, which is very easy to do because it's like a second charge or so at the bend speed, and having that insane utility, it's the best secondary in the game. It is easily S tier. And they just made the bow even better. Base ammo increased from 20 to 31. Bend speed, the points you can spend is cut in half, but the effect is doubled, so it's just better economy. And ammo bag increased the effect from 2.5% to 5%. Impulse grenade. Toss at the ground, you'll see a blue circle closing in on itself. Once it does, it launches any players that are pretty close to it into the air. Time it correctly, be in the right spot. You'll get launched very fast and far in a horizontal arc. The entire purpose is movement. It doesn't affect enemies whatsoever. So bring it if you want to do quests quickly and traverse maps in a fast fashion, maybe to put up portals across the map if your objective rolls you entirely. That's all well and dandy. Very nifty. I got beef though. Big beef in a sense. This only has one singular charge at base. That's rough because you still require the red satchel to replenish this utility, of which there are far more impactful things you could be doing and using. So to me, this is a workplace hindrance, if not a hazard. And for that reason, it is F tier. Leveredge, a lever-action marksman rifle, I believe after the Winchester style. There's pretty good damage per shot, even out the gate with no upgrades, but the fire rate is rather abysmal until you upgrade. It is entirely hit scan. Wherever you're aiming, the shot goes there instantly. And there's one more thing I forgot. We'll get there eventually. For your unique jokers, I had to sound that out right there. Eagle lever. Consecutive shots without missing grant 5% damage, stacking up to 50%. This gives you 10 stacks. That's good. The downside is if you miss a single shot, you lose all stacks. It may be saying, oh, just don't miss. Simple. I know how most folks aim in video games. That is easier said than done. But also consider how fast these small enemies die, thus making it to where you'll miss shots to no fault of your own. Let's say you're hitting every shot imaginable, not missing a single beat with the leverage, but the moment you switch to your secondary, you lose all your stacks just by swapping. That feels pretty bad. So I think in this case, it's still a good joker, but I do wish it wouldn't make you lose all your stacks on missing. Maybe half your stacks, maybe a third, whatever it may be, just a little bit less punishing. Other unique joker is stacked lever. Instantly reload 2 bullets from your reserve ammo on kill. I love that it's 2 bullets instead of 1. This makes for potential to not have to reload so much on boss fights, but especially for horde clearing, that is the difference. Because if you sit there having to reload every bullet one by one, because this is a rounds reload type of gun, good luck finding time to shoot. You'll be spectating ammunition instead of actually playing the game at that point. So stack lever is pretty much always in my loadout. Never leaves. Now I do mention a few downsides of the weapon. I believe they're mostly bugs though. When you're ADS'd, you have a slower sensitivity than every other weapon I'm aware of, including the sniper scope. That leads to inconsistency of aim, and I never want to use that feature, which is not a huge kicker, but something to mention. The more annoying factor is you cannot use eagle lever with ricochet. I'm pretty sure there's no possibility to even build stacks when ricochet lands a shot. It just counts as a miss. Either way, that's rough because eagle lever is great for extra damage. Damage is good for leveling. Ricochet's extra damage, also good for leveling, and I can't combine the two. That feels bad. For the horde clear, it's difficult to discuss breakpoints because I have different jokers than y'all most of the time. 1 glass cannon, 2 chunky, and a single weak spot joker. I'm doing hefty damage, and I one-shot everything below the rattle cattle, built for battle, the cows. So you're doing pretty good damage. And for bosses, the damage output is still pretty good. It's middle of the road, I'd say. So in this case, I'm going to give the weapon B tier. Revolver, the classic 6-shooter that can ascend to a 16-shooter. The choice is yours, dealing more damage than dual revolvers by a little bit and having a much slower fire rate. But you can be perfectly accurate if you simply ADS. That can be quite handy if you're facing a bunch of Deadeye, to which case, if you deal 60 damage and have the fire element equipped, whether it's a weak spot or body shot, they will die to the dot, which is awesome. It applies to basically every secondary, but hey, Revolver has a tough time getting too much higher than that, so I figured it's worth mentioning. It can be okay against the barricaders, depending on your damage. If you're looking for a supportive weapon that gives your whole team more damage, then this one has a unique joker called Mark Ace. Bullets mark enemies for 3 seconds. Marked enemies take 15% damage. That percentage is actually pretty good compared to other damage jokers. But consider, it's not just your damage being increased. I believe it's all damage sources on the enemy. For sure, your teammates. That is technically 60% increased damage if all folks shoot the same guy. And that's going to be happening on bosses pretty often. That is wild. For your second joker, Fanning Ace. Fire mid-reload at the right moment to chain fire all bullets with low accuracy. Fan the Hammer enthusiast will enjoy this, but you do not have the ability to increase your ammo reserves whatsoever. And it's going to go pretty quick. I think the max you get is 70 if you're rocking the 16 cylinder size. Also, if you're using the joker that gives you 20% damage, but if you reload you lose the ammo, you can't make use of this. Super niche in that sense, but worth mentioning. The revolver is B tier. The Hunter's Mark is fantastic, but you're going through the great bullet depression constantly, always out of ammunition. And I can't particularly get down with that. Ammo pack. Toss a wooden box that breaks, giving you 4 to 6 bricks of ammunition. It's split between primary and secondary, blue being secondary and yellow being primary. And once picked up, it fully refills the weapon that you gathered it for, also reloading it. The ability to have instant access to ammunition once it explodes and drops and whatnot is ridiculously awesome, because if you guys don't know, it's pretty difficult to kill things when you don't have bullets and are just using your fists, at least right now. Soon-ish, well, soon TM, we'll be getting melee weapons. The Evil Raptor devs have done a fantastic job of putting so much ammunition at all the different POIs, primary, secondary, and the red utility refills. So you don't need ammo pack, but if you're doing constant storm triggering to get more kills, increase your experience, and just fight more stuff, it's pretty freaking ideal to have. And if you're using weapons that blow through ammunition, for instance, leverage and the single revolver, this is also going to be more of an ideal pick. So I'd say in general, ammo pack is A tier. Quad cylinder is everyone's basic starting weapon that has an insanely unique ammo system, comprised of 4 revolver cylinders that makes up the name, and that makes perfect sense. I didn't notice it until right now. It plays like a general assault rifle in some games. There is a massive flaw though, at least from my perspective. We'll get to that by reading the description first. Shoots fine, feels fine, does fine, a monument to mediocrity, but a very dependable one. That ain't true. I'm not saying it has to be true, but it's just the weapon's got ridiculous spread. You can be shooting something, hitting basically perfect shots, and you're getting a lot of white marks. This goes for even bosses that have massive weak spots to shoot at. The train boss, I'm getting white. Brother, that's a lot of damage loss. And it just feels kind of bad. Because I'm ADS'd. I'm not just doing it no aiming whatsoever. I'm scoped in, if you want to call it that, and just getting so many not weak spot shots, which equals less damage and just leads to a less enjoyable experience. It doesn't have to be perfect aim. It can still have spread. It just feels as though it's a lot of spread. But hey, oh, no worries. You can use a joker to improve it. Yeah, you can, but joker shouldn't exist to fix the weapon's flaws so heavily. You know what I mean? Because your first joker is aiming burst. While aiming, your shots have perfect accuracy. That's this many. 5 slots to make your weapon hit stuff good. Listen, not enticing. Your other joker is homing burst. Every 20 bullets fired, shoot 5 homing bullets at nearby enemies. That's cool, and it does work with ricochet. So you can have those 5 bullets that get triggered every 20 bullets, and that will then have a chance to ricochet off the 5 enemies it hits. The fact that so many shots can miss to no fault of your own unless you invest in a 5-slot joker puts the quad cylinder in D tier. Unfortunately, very cool looking gun, and this could be easily rectified as well by just reducing the spread amount when ADS'd for sure. Not to where it's perfectly accurate, but just to where you're going to be hitting a lot more shots on, let's say, bosses. Like, I think test it on bosses and make it to where if you're aiming within like a certain range, you're going to be hitting mostly weak spot shots if you're tracking it properly. Like, that should be, like, I believe, the baseline in a sense. Because past that, you can make it work. You can get stuff going. And also probably have the first few shots be perfectly accurate. I don't know if it does that similar to how the minigun does, which is kind of nice. Boomerang. Toss it, and if it goes max distance or hits the environment, it spins in place, dealing damage to all things that walk into it. If it hits an enemy first, it'll track them, and once it kills them, or if it runs out of time, it'll go back to you. This can proc on-hit effects such as Lucky Strike and a chance to trigger elemental damage very well, because it just hits so many times. It's okay for lifesteal. At first I thought it was godlike. It can be sick if you're hitting a bunch of enemies that walk into it, which we'll get to that in a moment. You can increase the lingering time, which is how long it stays out spinning and dealing damage, which is one of the more impactful aspects to invest points into. For the unique jokers, these are both useful. Lingering throw doubles the lingering time, combines with lingering time upgrade. I believe that goes to 100%, so you double the time it's out and about doing rotations. Chonky throw. The boomerang is twice as big. This is 99.9% a good thing. It does get caught on the environment in times you don't want it to because now it's bigger, and it makes it more challenging to get it underneath the barricaders, the folks with the wooden shields that run at you. If you hit that, it bounces off. Whereas if you go beneath it, it'll be on the ground, they'll walk over it, and they'll take damage. It being big, though, is ideal because now you have a bit better horde clear, and it makes it so the hitbox isn't as finicky because it does have the issue. Boomerang will hit something and not deal the proper damage. You'll see it on the Deadeyes fairly often. Toss it at them, it's spinning in place, and they take maybe 20 damage as opposed to the potential 100 to 200 that should just kill them. If you want to have infinite preposterous move speed, equip 6 to 8 running guns that give you 30% movement speed when shooting, and for boomerang, if you toss it and if it's not in your hands, that counts as shooting it the entire time of which that's happening. So you can just toss it, jump, and make sure it's not in your hands, and keep jump dashing. And if you're using the sniper rifle, or long ranger rather, you throw boomerang first, and then swap to that, shoot it, and repeat the process, giving you a lot more uptime because now you have an infinite way to deal extra damage, being the boomerang. If it has lifesteal, that just gives you some sustain. That's a very fun playstyle, by the way. And one of the cool things that I don't know if it's intentional, but you can deal headshot damage on the train boss, and potentially other bosses, but for sure the train feller when using boomerang. And it just looks cool. It's just freaking, it's wicked to have the ability to increase that damage output by a lot. In general, though, I don't believe you can trigger weak spot damage on the majority of enemies. So keep that in mind. Horde clear, it's okay-ish. It can be finicky to make it work because the main goal is tossing it at the ground, having enemies walk into it. They aren't always in a single file line. And you'll have shields blocking it, even on Decoil, for instance. For bosses, it's just an additional thing you can use. Boomerang is C tier. It's inconsistent, and the horde clear isn't great, and the lifesteal is just too low. Here are the final rankings for weapons and utilities in Far Far West, as well as my playtime and my levels for these weapons, just so people have an understanding that I did play the game. Now, mind you, you can use whatever you like. It doesn't matter. It's a PvE game, and in most cases, I'd prefer folks use things that I either don't think are very good or in some cases are objectively not that good. It makes the game harder. It makes it so I get more kills. That's how it goes in all these horde shooters. Anywho, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate your time greatly, and I hope to get more videos out sooner. This one took a long time.